Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie Hunter and welcome to Quiltville in the basement, where we have so much going on today that my head is spinning. And you know that guy at the circus who has the plates spinning on poles, and he does everything he can to keep all of those plates spinning. I'm at the point where my plates are maxed out, and if I add any more plates, I'm afraid some of them may fly off the handle and go hurt somebody somewhere. It's been a really exciting day. Addicted to Scraps arrived this morning. We actually got a call, and about 8 o'clock this morning loaded up the pickup truck and the trailer and headed over to Yellow Freight in Kernersville to pick up a pallet of boxes of books. It's 1,033 copies, and they're all spoken for already. And there's another set that's on its way for those who have ordered the book, along with the ruler tool that'll come later. And those folks know that their order won't be shipped until that ruler tool is in the house as well. So we've got some really exciting things going on. We've worked really hard for it. Things that I'm getting with the order of the book, the tool, or the both together, you get a free PDF download of our Wanderlust table runner. And some folks didn't read the information that's on the page when you place your order, and it's on your receipt when you get the link to download. That download link does have an expiration on time, and I have upped that time. But some of you, it may have expired in 3 days. If you email me, I'll regenerate that link for you. I'm finding I'm regenerating hundreds of links. So, because it was a holiday weekend and people were gone, and thought, oh, I'll download this later. And the download link expires. And there's a reason why there's a time limit on that. If for any reason one of those emails got forwarded to somebody who forwarded it to somebody who forwarded it to their guild, who forwarded it to their website, who forwarded it to their entire email list, it's not fair for people who haven't paid for a pattern to just have it passed on to them by free. It's actually a copyright infringement. So that time limit is there to protect you and to protect me. But I have extended it. And if you order now, you get 6 days in which to download that, and you have a limited number of times that you may try to download that pattern, and that stops people from putting it in their guild newsletter and having that pattern go out that way. This is exclusive for people who have bought the book or the tool or the bundle on my website, and that pattern is for you to enjoy and to use. So when people ask, I hope that you'll send them to the website to get their own. What I'm working on today. Remember these? Maybe you got your September, October 2016 issue of Quiltmaker. These are my 4-in-9 blocks, and I've loved them so much that I want to make some more. And they were very, very easy to kit up from strips that I already have on hand. And what I did with these is I went, there's 2 different widths of strips. So I actually went and culled through my fat quarter bin, anything that is like half a fat quarter or something, because I need to have a center square as well as a long enough strip to do the side 4 patches. So I found it was easy to go into the fat quarters, cut a strip of each size that I need, and then kit up some blocks. Other things that I've been working on. Check this out, guys. I have been sewing like crazy town. I finished the tumbler top this month. I finished the Scrappy Mountain Majesties, and also a string quilt that's hanging on the machine has been finished since we were last able to do Quilt-Cam. So look at this. This is our new leader and ender challenge, and it looks like, oh wow, you'll have that done in no time. But guess what? Each round gets bigger, and there's more units for each round. So it's going to take me a year to do this. It just looks fast for a fast start, because we start just with the 8 blocks in the center, and then you put a round of neutral around, and then there's that row, that double row of pink ones, and then there'll be a row of neutral around. So what I've got to do tonight, in between working on my 4 and 9 blocks, is I've got my stack of neutrals that I've been working on, and now as leaders and enders, I can start joining them together. I need 2 rows of 10. That's my goal. That likely won't get done tonight, but 2 rows of 10 will do the side borders outside of these pink hourglass units. And then I'll have the 2 rows for the top and bottom. But usually when I'm sewing things like 4 patches, these units can become the leaders and enders for themselves. So I don't need a whole lot of separate leader ender projects going on. And you know what I just noticed? I'm looking across the room at my big desktop, and there plugged into the cord on the charger is my phone. So I can't even check for comments from you until I go pick that up. But before I do that, I wanted to show you how I've kitted this up. And this project can travel really, really easy. I've got some strips. These will be for the 4 patches. I've got some squares. I need 1 for the center and 4 for the corners. Now, when I'm kitting up anything, I even like to have my strip sets about the length that I want them to be, because I want to build my variety while I am cutting things out. I want things ready to sew. I can have these in baggies. I am going to Rhode Island on Tuesday, so I'm going to need to cut some more of these before I go. But what I usually do, and this also goes for those who were asking about, shoot, now I'm going to forget the name of that block, the garlic knots block. Figure out the number. Let's see if I hold this right here. I have how many sets of 2? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need 8 sets of 2 of these. And I'm talking about your raw size, not the size that the unit's finished. Just do this with your raw size. I need 8 subcuts. What amount does that equal to? 8 times whatever the width of the strip is equals, Now take that and add a 1/2 inch at least, so that you have room to square up the end of your strip set before you cut your segments. And that's what I usually do to figure out what length these need to be. Count the number of units, add them all together so that you can, and that's with the seam allowance included, so that you know the minimum strip length to get those pieces. And then add yourself a 1/2 inch so that you have a little bit of leeway in case things start to tilt or lean. You can re-straighten the strip if you're cutting 8 units out, or if you need to straighten the end of the strip set before you can cut on down the strip set. So a 1/2 inch is my minimum extra. I never do a strip set having it the exact length that I need, because shift happens. And we know that we're going to need a little bit of room to trim those up. So you'll easily be able to kit up your blocks when strip sewing. And when you're going to do some strip sewing and then some sub cutting, if you just remember to figure out the number of repeats that you need, do that simple, easy math, and then add 1/2 inch to 1 inch to the length of your strip to accommodate for squaring up and sub cutting. So that's what I've got going on here. And before I even start sewing, would you give me a break so that I can grab that phone that's plugged into the charger? I'll be right back. Don't go away. And we're back. Okay, so I'm logging into Google Plus, into Hangouts to do this. And every time I do, it's with trepidation, because every time I log in, they've changed something on the page. They've moved this, they've changed that, they've deleted this, they've added another whammy. And tonight's whammy is, after September 12th, you must log into live chat on YouTube in order to get this going. So I won't be using Hangouts anymore to do this. I'm going to have to actually figure out where to go into YouTube to get this going. And YouTube and Google and Blogger, they're all connected, and it's usually a good change when they make it. It's just that I'm an old dog, and it takes me a while to figure out what we're doing and how. So I may have to do an impromptu person in person or something impromptu test live chat just to make sure we have it ready to go before we do our next thing. Let's do some sewing. I'm sewing still. I was going to switch out my sewing machine. This one is actually probably gets a prize for staying here the longest, because I haven't switched it out the last few Quilt-Cams. This is a 1950s Electro Hygiene. It's made in Japan. Electro Hygiene might sound like a funny name, but it was actually the name of a vacuum cleaner company. And this is the sew and vac thing. We always wonder, well, why do they call it a sew and vac shop? Because the sewing machines often had the same name. as its vacuum cleaner counterpart. So I've got my sticky seam guide down. I've already done a test seam to make sure that the seam is going to give me the strip set width that I want. And I'm just going to sew a couple. I do need a little bit smaller stitch length. I was doing some stay stitching around the outside edge of a quilt so that pieces didn't get stretched or come undone. You know, one of the reasons I'm glad we snuck in Quilt-Cam is that with all of these books in the house, I might not be sitting at a sewing machine for a while, and that's okay. Okay, I got to double check on that seam allowance. Does it look like it's right? Sometimes. I think I'm actually going to press this one and double check to see that I'm getting the strip width that I need. Sometimes just looking at the seam, you can't tell, but I was wondering if this was just a little bit over where it needed to be. Actually, yep, I'm a little bit too narrow. Good thing I only sewed 2, and it's just a hair, but I wanted that to be just a little bit. That sticky isn't as sticky as it should be. So since we had Quilt-Cam last, I've been in 4 other countries. We just got back from our Mediterranean cruise. We had 49 quilters. One had to drop out at the last minute. She or her hubby got ill and they weren't able to. So I'm sorry to miss them. Hopefully we will catch them later on another trip. And we had an absolutely wonderful time. The weather could not have been better. It was hot, 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 Mediterranean hot. But it could not have been better. I had great cruisers willing to try new things. We taught them back-basted applique, which is a needle turn method where things are basted on, you draw your design on the back of the project, and then you baste on that line, and the fabric just wants to turn right under where those needle holes are. So it's a really easy way to do needle turn without templates. It's kind of like paper piecing in that as long as your piece is bigger than the space where it's going, you're good to go, because you trim it and you sew as you go. Now let's see, that looks a little better. Okay. I'm going to sew 2 of these together as my leader ender, and then we'll check in with some questions after I measure this. I'd love to know what you're working on. If this is your first time with Quilt-Cam, we don't do this on a regular basis. My schedule's pretty hectic. We throw it in on a whim whenever we can. But if you read my blog and you follow along on Facebook or Instagram, I usually let you know when Quilt-Cam's going to be. So that's the way to know. And you can always catch up in the archives. After this is done, I will link to it under the Quilt-Cam tab at the top of my blog at quiltville.blogspot.com. If you want to send me a photo of what you're working on, I'd love that. My email address is quiltville@gmail.com. I can see photos in email, but I can't see photos if you post them to the blog or Facebook or whatever, because I'm just dealing with email while we're chatting here live. I absolutely love it when these units nest with each other because we've spun the seams on the back. So the seams will nest and be friendly, and that makes me a happy girl. Okay. Moment of truth here. I think that this little sticky isn't sticking very well because I oiled and cleaned the machine and things tend to slide. All right. Yes, and I'm just giving this a finger push for right now. I'll turn the iron on. Okay. It's always helpful just to stop and double check and be sure. 2.5 exactly. Okay, so now I'm good to go. Those other ones, I think we're going to set those aside. I'll have to redo those. Okay. Is anybody in? Is anybody checking in? First time on Quilt-Cam, says Gloria Davis. Hi, Gloria. How are you tonight? She says, Gloria from Ohio, just finished this top string quilt. I used up my 2.5-inch strips left over from a quilt I made my granddaughter. Oh, that's pretty. And she's got all kinds of oranges and reds, turquoise, simple string quilt, leftover strips. Can you ever go wrong with a string quilt? I don't think so. I think the more you throw in, the better they get. They're kind of like stone soup. I love that, Gloria. She's going to love it too. Glad you could tune in. Barbara Mick. It just says Mick. I got to get it to open up. Mick Connell says, I've been working on crumb blocks. What fun they are. Happy to catch Quilt-Cam tonight. Placing my order for the new book later tonight. Oh, wonderful. These look great. So we've got strings and crumbs all in the house. And I don't think I would ever get tired of these crumb blocks either. They're just little snippets of little memories. They're wonderful. I like the purples and the plaids that you've stuck in there. Great job. So with the way that the books are going to go, if you do order the tool with the book, your order will be held until the tools are in-house. And then they're going to go out in the order in which they were received. So if you order today or if you order next week, everybody else who ordered ahead of you, we're working as fast as we can to get those out. My goal is to get all of the ones that don't need the ruler out before the rulers come in. And we're just going to extend this thing, and we're going to handle it one day at a time. I've got a friends who've even asked, can I come help? Can I come help? And I may have them filling envelopes. I'll do the signing. They can fill the envelope. We'll stick the label on there, and it'll be out the door. Carolyn Owens says, what I'm working on, this is that lion, isn't it? Oh, it's gorgeous. I have seen this, and I have admired it so much. Isn't that just absolutely beautiful? If you love paper piecing, you might want to look for this pattern. I don't remember who it's by or what it's called, but it is absolutely stunning. Great job. I see this and I think Hakuna Matata. So beautiful. Great job. Okay. Steve Skybell says, I'm able to catch you live tonight. Yay. Hi, Steve. How are you? While sewing in my dressing room of Fiddler, did you know that Steve plays in Fiddler on the Roof? I can't remember who he's playing. You'll have to remind me, because there's so many characters I absolutely love. And I don't think he's Tevye. I don't think he's Tevye. I think he's somebody else. I got all my Celtic Solstice blocks pieced. Them's a lot of blocks. So here's Steve in a musical. And sewing in his dressing room in between rehearsals and when he's off stage. I can just see this. This is just awesome. Tonight I'm finally stitching the binding on Aliatare, which has been done for several months now, but only getting to bind with it now. As always, thanks so much for all you do and all the inspiration you give to others. She says, you're the best. Thanks. And he's in Putnam County, New York. So Steve, quilt away, break a leg, have a great show. I loved Fiddler on the Roof. I remember the first time I saw Fiddler on the Roof was, was I in junior high or something like that? But all of those songs and all of the dances and everything have stuck with me, and I see it as often as I can. The last time I saw Fiddler on the Roof was a couple of years ago. My mom lives out of Boise, Idaho, up in Garden Valley, and they actually have summer theater up there in an outdoor theater where all of the actors and the musicians and everything come up from the Boise area, and they perform nightly in Garden Valley. And it's really quite the thing to watch this on the stage, open to the sky, and beautiful, beautiful country, and fabulous, fabulous show. And I know that you're doing an awesome job. Okay. Barbara says, welcome back. Tonight I'm working on a Christmas table topper and using Aunt Bird, my lovely rewired singer. Love that you take your time to share your expertise with us, and can't wait for my shipment, pre-ordered on the very first day. We'll get it right out to you. Great job, Barbara. Boy, they're coming in hot and heavy here. Hand quilting my tumblers, says this person at does not have, it says area code 210. It's all it has is a phone number, so not a name on this one. But Here's some tumblers in the hoop, and they're getting hand quilted. So who says hand quilting is a dead subject? I love hand quilting. I had an eye doctor appointment yesterday, and she thinks we can fine tune my prescription just a little bit. I have astigmatism, so my prescription hasn't changed, but the astigmatism's changed a little bit. So that's made things a little bit more on the blurry, harder to see close-up detail side. So we've changed the range from where people usually read up here to handwork a little bit closer, and fixed for the astigmatism, and I've got new glasses ordered, so I'm excited. Also, there's a company called Craft Optics, and you know those glasses, those little glasses that jewelers wear and people that do really close work. I've got a pair on order, and I will test those and let you know how they go, because I think they're going to really help with the really close work that I'd love to do. I've given up on hand quilting pretty much because of the eye thing, but if this can bring it back to where I can see, there's going to be no stopping. This winter needs to be for handwork. I want to just sit and do handwork. The cruise has lit my fire on that with all the applique blocks. Beautiful tumblers, area code 210. Thank you for sharing. Kathy Rivenbark says, the person who didn't make your cruise was my good friend Betsy. She fell and fractured her kneecap. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Please give her my best. She was so disappointed to not make the trip. I just heard that she is back and out on her feet. She looks forward to doing another cruise with you. Bless her heart. You know, nobody, those kind of things just, there's never a good time for those kind of things to happen. So I hope she's over it soon and regains full mobility, and that she'll be able to join us on the next trip. I have just 2 trips scheduled for next year. No cruises next year. I'm doing a big trip to China and to Thailand in the fall. So if you've ever wanted to do that, the information for that is at the top of the blog. Click either the China link or the Thailand link, or heck, click both, and let's have an extended trip together. It's going to be really cool. That's a land tour only, no cruise. No room to work in a cruise this next year. Okay, so Hillary Burke says, here's my work in progress. I'm deciding on borders tonight. Thanks for the patterns and all you do. And she's got her, oh, that's so great. It's a 4-patch in furrows, and she set it with gray. Isn't that gorgeous? This is one of the free patterns that's on the website, and I love her modern uptake with that gray. That's just lovely. It makes all those other colors just dance like little jelly beans. Love it. Thank you, Hillary. Beautiful. Okay, so what my plan is with these guys, and of course, because this is in a current magazine, I'm not really supposed to give out sizes, but if you have super duper incredible, wild and crazy, mad drafting skills, this is a very simple block. And you can make it any size as long as you can multiply times 2 and add seam allowance. Okay, so we've got this one here. Now, when cutting 4 patches, I'm actually going to do a little bit of sliver trimming here first, where we're going to find the center, cut it in half, and I do just kind of whack it in half. Remember, I've got at least that extra ½ inch, if not an inch. And I'm going to match these halves right sides together so that they're opposing. I've got the light on the dark and the dark on the light, and that seam in the middle is nested. So what I'm doing is cutting these 4 patches already right sides together, ready to sew. Love these small rulers. In fact, this little voice in my head says, you need to order these in. You need to order these in. So I may be doing that soon. Trim it up and cut 4 sections. I like small tools when I'm doing a small job. It makes it so much more accurate and less movement of big rulers and things like that. Okay. So once you get these 4 patches made, it's just as simple as assembling a 9 patch. And that's what I mean about mad drafting skills. The size of the squares for the corners are the same size as these units when they're sewn together. And I'm going to send these with the dark square hitting the needle first so that the top seam allowance is pointing up towards the needle. Very rarely do I need to do it the other way. It all depends on how you want the seams to spin on the back of the 4-patch if you're going to spin them. I'm much happier with that seam allowance. You know, when you do it a lot, when you sew a lot, it didn't look that much difference, yet I can tell just a few threads, and that's got to be picked out. On the cruise thing, you know, we started in Barcelona, and every day was a blur. Barcelona to Montenegro to Croatia to, and then after that, it's like, did we go to Venice or did we go to the Amalfi Coast first, or did we go to Rome first, or did we? It was somewhere nearly every day. Okay, so now I can add one more to this. And I'm trying to mix them up here, so I'm going to dig in my pile for something I didn't use yet. Well, they're all kind of similar. That's okay. That way. And they nest in the corners. Okay. And people asked all the time, did you find any fabric stores? Did you find any quilt shops? Did you find any fabric? Did you buy fabric? Honestly, I was not looking. There is so much else to see in the world besides just fabric stores. And I know it sounds sacrilegious of a quilter to say I wasn't looking for fabric, but I really wasn't. Because even if we found a place, it would be way too expensive. If we found a place, they'd have what we have here at home for more expensive. And I really, really wanted to experience everything else. So I wanted to have a gelato at the top of the Isle of Capri. I wanted to have a gelato in Venice. There was gelato at least once a day, every day. And miraculously, my cholesterol check yesterday, I've dropped about almost 50 points off of what my cholesterol was. Last year was really bad. It was like 250. And I'm right about 200 right now. So we're better. So no fabric stores happened. None at all. Okay, so here's the layout of our block. I've now got our 4 patches, so I can use this block as my little roadmap to tell me which way these need to lay out. And it's amazing when you change the fabrics and you change the colors, how different the block looks. For instance, this block has one red center, and it changes that entire block. Can you imagine what this block would look like if it had the same blue? Now, this isn't the same blue, but I can put the blue in there. It would just change it. It would just look like 4 patches in a 9 patch. But when you stick that red one in the center, it changes, doesn't it? I think so. Anyway, so these ones have to match. The red square has to match the reds in the 4 patches. And then you can put your squares in. Ta-da! Pretty simple, but different enough to be fun, rather than just a plain old 4 patch and a 9 patch. Okay, so this is where we are. Let's head back to your emails, because I hear them dinging. They are just coming in hard and heavy. I love that, Hillary. That's beautiful. Irene Hafer says she loves Quilt-Cam. Hi, Irene. She says, so excited to see you, even if it's only Quilt-Cam. I'm organizing and packing for Deb Hader's beach retreat in Houston with Sherry. You girls are going to have so much fun, and I wish I was joining you. So please tell all the ladies hi. Down in Houston, they've rented a beach house, and I don't know how many quilters are going to be there. Probably 20, maybe only 12. Who knows? But it's going to be a whole long weekend of many machines and lots of projects and lots of fun and laughter. So if you have girlfriends that you retreat with, or guy quilter friends, whatever, count yourself amongst the lucky, because quilters are the absolute best friends to hang out with. She says she's taking Spanish Rose with me so I can get to the piecing when I get home. You're not cruising next year, so maybe I better see about the Caribbean cruise this October. Is it full? I don't think it's full, Irene. I think there's a few spots left. So I know we're down to the wire, and that cruise is only a month away. But if you're wanting to run away to the Caribbean in October, if you go to, I think it's still linked at the top of my blog, if you go to crafttours.com, CRAFTOURS.com, and you click on quilting, because I'm under the quilting category of Craft Tours, you'll see my name. And if you just click my name, all of my trips come up. I would love to see you on a cruise, and believe me, Irene's a lot of fun to cruise with. So who knows, Irene, if it is full, maybe you should just book a room on the ship and come anyway and just be my assistant. That would be fun. And I hope your hubby's knee is doing better. Oh, very fun. Okay. So this one, Helen Fox. Hi, Helen. Speaking of cruisers, she says, just watching Quilt-Cam from Melbourne, Australia, my second Quilt-Cam, 11:30 a.m. on Thursday morning. Still working on midnight flight from the Chicago cocoon, as well as all the other projects. Love watching your chat. And big hugs to you, Helen. I suppose you are coming on into springtime now. I saw another Australian friend post a photo of a dandelion with the puff, and she said spring is just right here, and I had to be outside, and that makes me so excited for you. I love autumn here in the southeast. We kind of have a long autumn easing into winter. I remember this last December was the first weekend of December, which is usually very cold here. We were out on the motorcycle because it was over 70 degrees and gorgeous. So that's why I live where I live. I'm not a fan of winter, but I'll take the 4 seasons and deal with winter as the shortest one. So welcome to your spring, Helen. I'm so glad you could join in. Okay. We have Becky Galambos. How are you, Becky? Haven't heard from you in a while. She says, I've finished my first pineapple crazy block today. What's the best thing to use to repair a rip in the paper while you are piecing? Oh, yes. The best thing, if you're doing paper piecing, this is for her pineapple crazy, not pineapple blossom. Is that what you said? Did you say? Oh, you said pineapple crazy. Okay. So you're sewing along and your paper tears off too quickly. If you have a sheet of printer labels, computer address labels, they're paper, right? They're sticky on the bottom, but they're paper on the top. Those address labels make really great paper band-aids that you can iron over without them melting and getting all shrinky and sticky on you. Don't iron tape. I'm not a fan of masking tape when I'm paper piecing. Also, if you have to sew through that line, if you have to, tape your paper back together, use the label, and you have to sew through that label, it still tears off really easy, where masking tape or painter's tape does not. So those printer label sheets, the paper kind, not the shiny and not the clear, but just the ones that just feel like paper, those are the ones to use. And I will even keep, as I'm sending out book orders or whatever, that label paper leaves a margin of labels all the way around the outside edge of the paper. Yeah, I save that because I just peel it off and stick it on. So if your paper's falling off too soon, you may need to make your stitch a little bit bigger, but the fact that your paper is falling off is going to make that paper really easy to remove too. So I hope that helps you. Oh, and she says, how is Sadie Jane doing? Sadie is doing phenomenal. In fact, she's gotten really spoiled because she thinks that pill time is treat time, because the only way to make her get her pills down is to wrap the little pills in a piece of cheese. So now she's a cheeseaholic, and she wants cheese. Every time you go to the fridge, she wants cheese, but she only gets the cheese when she gets her pills. Now, when we run out of pills, I don't know what we're going to do, but she's got about 3 or 4 days left to do, but she's almost back to normal. In fact, I caught her jumping back up on the bed today, and it was like, Sadie, don't jump. Well, if she feels like she can, I guess she can. And we have ordered 2 sets of doggy stairs to get up to tall beds. You know, the mattresses are so much taller now that it's harder for them to jump up. And she's aging. She's 11. She'll be 12 in February. And it's time to take a little bit of care. So for those of you who didn't know, Sadie took a jump, we guess, off the bed on, was it the Sunday of Labor Day or the Saturday of Labor Day weekend last week, and this past weekend. And she was fine on our walk, but was walking a little bit gingerly. And then we came home from our walk, and it was, I've got a bug. It was about 2.5 miles hike. And I'm fixing breakfast, and she lays down on her bed, and then it's time for her to get her breakfast. And she tried to get up, and she was so stiff, she couldn't get up, and she was whimpering and crying, and she couldn't raise her head. And her tail was drooping, and she was just shaking, almost thunder shaking. And so we called the midnight vet, and we took her to Boone, and they did some tests on her, and they tried to, you know, move her head this way, move her shoulders this way, and they said, oh, she's pulled something, and we think it's between her cervical vertebrae and her thoracic vertebrae, that between her shoulder blades, that she had done something when she jumped off the bed to jar herself. So old dogs feel like old people, and anti-inflammatories, pain medication, and I think probably a steroid of something is going to help her out. And then we've got to watch it so that she doesn't try to be super dog anymore. So thank you. That's what's going on there. Here's Becky's pineapple crazy block, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And I love that you included, is that a baseball guy? I can't tell what he is, but she's got a novelty fabric down here. The thing about these pineapple crazy blocks, they're only 5 inches finished. So you can get rid of a multitude of unrelated scraps. And by the time it's sewn into the block, all you really see is color, right? You just see the little pops of color. But look in the corner. Can you see that? Oops, it's going dark on me. Okay, can you see there's a guy? So hysterical. I love it when really crazy, quirky, weird fabrics show up next to this really prim and proper Civil War print, or this batik, or this whatever. So we may have to, I'm starting out fairly reproduction-y with these. It won't last. I'm going to have to pull in some weirdo stuff. Now, this is how I know that my seam allowance for this 4-patch is just right. Do you see that it just fits? It just fits. So I'm stinking thrilled here. That's wonderful. Okay, now that goes that way, and that means that's going to open up that way. I turned it around, and I had to be sure. Okay. Now these 4-patches don't really have to be spun because they don't nest to anything, but if you do spin the seams, they just lay a little bit flatter, and I got lazy and didn't before we picked them up. So I'm chaining this block together, and I'm always asked, what is webbing? This is webbing, but I'm going to fix this guy. When you chain the block together in rows and you leave the chains in place, and the rows are all sewn across with the chains in place between the rows, that's the webbing part. The chaining, the threads that connect the pieces, is the webbing. And it just makes it very easy to assemble a block. So now I've got that block as far as I can go. I'm going to grab another pair of strips and use this pair of strips with the proper seam allowance as my leader ender. As I was cutting these little kits out this evening, the hubby is at the computer printing invoices. We're so excited. He tweaked the HTML in my invoice program so that I can use an integrated sheet that has a peel and stick label at the top. So I can peel the label, stick it on the package, fill the order, put it in the package, and not get orders mixed up. And it also saves a ton of time. But he's so proud of himself that he had to be the one to come down here and print out the labels to make sure it worked. So I put him to work. And I'm cutting out these pieces. He says, what are you doing? I said, well, I got to cut out these blocks. You're starting another quilt? You didn't finish the last one. Why are you starting? Oh boy, maybe I don't want to have a man in my studio. Go back and play with your tennis rackets. It's okay. But he's been a big help. Okay, so pretty simple. These two rows are chained together, and I'm leaving these right here, and I'm going to add the next pieces down. If this sounds like a broken record, I apologize to those of you who know it already, but I get asked all the time. So maybe somebody who's watching will understand what webbing is. Poor Irene. She still hasn't gotten her luggage from the Southwest debacle. And that feels so awful. Okay, so here's this one. Now, this block can just stay here and be the leaders and enders while I go on to this one. You get it? They chase each other's tails. It keeps things nice and neat on the table, and nothing gets out of order, and I don't lose pieces because they're all connected. All right. So I cut out 6 blocks. Didn't take me very long at all. Okay, which is my approximate half, about there. And he says, so you're going to only get 6 blocks done during Quilt-Cam? And I said, maybe. More like 2. We'll get 2. Okay, scoot that down just a hair. We'll trim this up, and then we'll take some more. I think they need to make these rulers purple so that I can see them on my table. So we're going to cut our 4 sections, and I don't cut real well sitting down. The glare from the overhead lights is what makes it really kind of hard to see. Let's see, adding just a ½ inch, whoops, those came apart, to the length of the strip set. So you have the number of pieces that you need at the width that they need to be with the seam allowance included. And then I had just this much left over that is enough for me to trim up and toss away and leave me with just what I need here. Sometimes I think I'm just ready to retire and just stay home and sew. But no. If we can kit it up and sew it on the road, it's even that much more fun. Okay, so then here's this block. And we're pressing these towards the unpieced squares, just like a regular 9 patch. And then it's very easy to join these rows together. Isn't that cute? It's amazing how it changes the design just by changing the color of the center square. Okay. So back into the inbox, we've got this is from Jeanette Adams, who says, I'm watching from the UK at 2 a.m. Girl, you're nuts. What is she doing up? She says, first Quilt-Cam. Here's my Aliatare quilt. Carol from UK is my sister. Is she up at 2 a.m. too? I'm so glad to have you here. And her Aliatare is in wonderful Union Jack, red, white, and blue. That is absolutely beautiful. I love it. So this year's mystery is underway. I was absolutely thrilled that the weather turned out so nice this past Labor Day weekend up at the cabin that I was able to do a lot of cutting. And I even pulled the treadle machine out onto the bottom patio right outside the sewing room and did a bunch of sewing there. So that's underway. And now I'm juggling working on that along with getting all the book orders out. So that's another thing that needs to be kitted up so that I can take it out on the road and sew it while I'm away, because the book orders have to take priority. So we'll be down to the nitty gritty, and who knows, maybe I will be sewing all of the mystery quilt a couple of steps ahead of everybody else, but not have the top finished before we start. That's kind of a sticky wicket to be in, just in case there's any mistakes. This is absolutely beautiful. I love it. Love it. Go to bed. It's 2 a.m. Kevin says, can this man be in your studio sometime? Any mini hints or clues about the mystery? You know I can't wait. Thanks for all you do for us. Yes, Kevin, you're going to need neutrals. Gotcha. Nope, we're gonna have fun with it. And you know what? I'm on the cusp of, you know, usually every year I have one, the quilt will have one constant or maybe two constants. Last year the gray was the constant. The year before that we had the yellow as the constant, and I'm thinking it might be a constantless year. It may just be color play with the color families that I've chosen and no constants at all. So that's where I'm at. Not to the point where I can really give any clues or hints, because I may change my mind. I'm not that far along yet. And I might do something a little bit different this year as regards to the color cards too. So tuned and be surprised with everybody else. So I know that's not the answer that you wanted, but hopefully it builds up some excitement. And always, always collect those neutrals. Okay. So Cheryl Topping says, Sadie and the pills. I had to give my little dog chemo pills for over a year until the cancer she had was gone. I'm so glad that worked. I tried cheese, hot dog pieces, raw hamburger, and she always managed to spit the pill out over half the time. Peanut butter is what I found is impossible for her to spit. Well, can't spit the pill out. They love peanut butter. And by the time the peanut butter was slurped out of her mouth, the pill was in her tummy too. Get well, Sadie. Mama and Daddy and all your fans love you. That's a great idea, Cheryl. If I ever had any trouble, she's got one that's a little capsule. I mean, it's tiny. It's, if you know, what those little Benadryl capsules, about the size of that. And if I just kind of squish it in the cheese and squish the cheese around it, I swear she swallows the whole thing without even chewing. So it's not a problem. And she just knows it's cheese, and down it goes. And the other pill's a little bit bigger. And so I kind of make it like a cheese ravioli, only the cheese is the outside and the pill is the inside, and it's gone. So no problem there. But I will remember the peanut butter. Thank you. So this one, Eclectic Abuela, says she's working on Pfeffernuss. This is what I'm working on, magic when the blocks come together. Isn't that so fun? And this one also would be a good one for those who want to do the hourglass challenge but don't want to do the medallion like I'm doing them. Do you see all those hourglass units in there? You set them with string blocks. This is the pattern for Pfeffernuss, and it's found in my book String Fling. A gazillion hourglass units. They're the exact same size as the units that are going in this quilt. So the same tutorial for this would apply to that. And you can, it's a 3-color quilt. You can choose any 3 colors that you want, a neutral and 2 colors. And mine, I did red and brown and neutral, but you could do red, white, and blue. You could do green, orange, and beige. You could, whatever you want to do. So there's lots of ideas for incorporating hourglass units into this year's Leader and Ender Challenge. Thank you so much, Eclectic. Is it Angelia or Angelia? I'm not sure, but that's absolutely beautiful. So here is Sherry Dawn, says, so glad to join you tonight, sewing for the first time since our My Blue Heaven class in Bozeman. Much has happened since then, including a broken finger on one hand and sprained fingers on the other. Please don't tell me you did a nosedive. She says, but trying to follow along, working on the flying geese for the alternate block. Your poor fingers. Oh my gosh, Sherry. So she's working here on her little feather. Is it a featherweight? I can't tell. I think so. And she's working on her little flying geese right there from the class I taught in Bozeman. So as I was going through my what's left of this year's calendar, you know, this whole year, as I looked from January all the way through, we have been corner to corner, top to bottom, every which way. And I realized just yesterday that I only have, is it 2 or 3 more trips to handle, really, that are teaching related. I've got Rhode Island and Dover, Delaware in September. October is the cruise and quilt market. November, I am teaching in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and then that puts us into Thanksgiving, and then it's mystery time. So it's really, really winding down quickly, and that has me in a little bit of a panic. All right, so we're going to sew these rows together on this block. How many blocks did you get done tonight, Bonnie? One. But it's been a long time, and we're feeling chatty. I'm not sure that will. Okay. All right, and then that can just stay there while we bring these ones out. Now, one of the things I'm always asked when I am spinning the backside of 4 patches, do you press first, spin second? If you have a long chain of 4 patches, I find that I can snip them apart or press to one side, snip them apart, and then just quickly pick up one at a time. And that last seam is usually just a finger press for me is all that it needs. And that's all I'm doing here. Even if you don't need to, it kind of makes that 4 patch lay a little bit flatter in the middle so it doesn't have such a bump. Okay, let's lay out these pieces. Maybe we'll get to 2 blocks tonight. Okay, and I think I had these for the corners. I just went for these corners to my strip bins. And as long as I could get 4 squares cut out of that strip, it was good to go. So it's annihilating some smaller pieces from fat quarters because I need the 2 strip widths, and some strips for the corner. So it's kind of a scrap user system free-for-all. And I've lost my square. Here we go. Cuteness. I really love simple blocks. 4 patches, 9 patches, half square triangles, occasional flying geese, some tri-rex, maybe some 3-part triangles, 16 patches, rail fences, and log cabins. Those are the things that make me a happy quilter. Okay. Well, that could have been pinned a little bit better. I may have to fix that one too. I'm not showing you. I felt that one shift. This one will mess. It's always so funny because the quilts that really catch my attention when I go antique shopping are the ones where things are just almost right. You know, it's not really totally improv, wacky, crazy, and chopped off. It's just barely chopped off. Like she's done the best that she could with what she had and the tools that she used and whatever, but she didn't care enough to fix it. I like that quilter. So you will find chopped off points, almost there but not quite places in my quilts. That's just the way it is. Okay. Get these on here. Wrist is still buzzing. Phone is silent. Okay, so now the one that's in the machine, this one becomes the leader ender while I go on to block number 3. And this one, if I cover up the spot that didn't match, looks pretty darn good, doesn't it? I like these. I will fix that one because I can see where things just shifted on the outside. If I shift it that way, it'll be just fine. All righty, back into the nitty gritty here. Up to the top, we have, let's see, this is Amy who says, can you explain pantograph? You've mentioned before that you quilt using pantographs. I'm a hand quilter, so not familiar with what that is. Can you give a quick description? A pantograph is a long piece of paper, if you're talking long arm quilting, with an edge-to-edge design that is traditionally printed on the paper, and the machine has a stylus, and you trace the design on the paper while you're quilting the quilt, so it transposes the design on top of the quilt. It's an edge-to-edge design. Some people, like myself, who have a computer operated system, can program this to do the. It's a pattern that's stitched in rows across the surface of the quilt. It's still called a pantograph, even if it's done by computer, but it was usually a roll of paper with the design on it, and you're transferring that design and stitching onto the quilt. So I hope that makes sense. What I love about my computer operated long arm is that I can scale that bigger or smaller, and I can stretch it out, or I can shrink it in, and I can do all kinds of different things. And for instance, if you wanted an idea of a hand quilted pantograph, would be if you like Baptist fans, edge to edge, over everything, doesn't pay attention or particular attention to the block design itself. It's just going to march its pattern straight over. I would say that cross hatching is also an edge-to-edge design, and it just marches its way across the entire surface without paying attention often to the quilting pattern itself. If you are a modern machine quilter and you're quilting on a domestic machine, there are other edge-to-edge designs that I wouldn't necessarily be called pantographs because it's not done in rows, but like the matchstick quilting that's done with really, really narrow rows across the quilt from top to bottom or side to side, and that's all you see. It doesn't pay any particular attention to the block design. It just adds texture to the quilt. Same thing with spirals. You see a lot of modern spirals today where the spiral starts in the center of the quilt, and they use their walking foot and they go out and out and out and out and out and out until the whole surface is full. That's an edge-to-edge design. But pantographs are usually a printed design designed by somebody else that you quilt in rows across the surface of your quilt. So I hope that helps. I know it's weird jargon. It's kind of like, is it really a pantograph if the computer's doing it? When I went to go film my workshops in Golden, I asked the head director guy, I said, well, you know, we don't use film anymore. We don't use, you know, film cameras or whatever. So is this recording because it's not really on a VHS tape anymore? Is this filming because there really is no film? What do we call this? And they still call it, yeah, we're filming a workshop. They still call it filming, even though there's no film involved. It's all digital now. So some things like the name pantograph, which just means an edge-to-edge design on paper that's transferred by stylus, can now be done digitally with no paper or stylus involved. So there you go. This one from Lisa, who says, new to you, scrap quilt photo attached. Happily, I found you and your channel. Attached is my very scrappy quilt. I got the pattern in the mail, so I call it my junk mail quilt. That's really fun. Ooh, this is great. This looks like the patches and pinwheels quilt that's on my website. So if you're interested in this one, it's under the free patterns tab at the top of the blog. It was the first quilt pattern that I had in Quiltmaker magazine about 10 years ago. Yeah, I love that one. Love that one. Straight from Scrap User System. Beautiful job. I love those scraps. Welcome to Quilt-Cam. So glad that you could tune in. Mary Dieter says, webbing 81 blocks. I am webbing 81 blocks for my mosaic cat. Holy cow, this looks great. Let's see if I can turn this. So she's got, Mary, this is wonderful. It's all out of squares. She's piecing that out of squares. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. It's a winner for sure. And she's, what I love is the most is that, like, these are not hand dyed fabrics or painted fabrics or whatever. If I biggie size this, Can you see that those are everyday, ordinary quilt shop fabrics? Different textures, different prints, slightly different shades. I love that eye, how that eye is coming together. So she used just regular, everyday, ordinary fabric. And I love the red design wall too, because that allows you to see everything. Wonderful. I'm amazed. I can't wait to see this one done, Mary. Okay, so we have up to the top. Jeanette Adams says, so you're talking about creams for mystery quilt. I said neutrals. I said neutrals, and I will not expand any further on that. So it's a mystery. Just wait. Yardage requirements and information about the kind of the theme, the inspiration, and stuff like that, and the colors will all come at the end of October. And so we've got just next month. We've got just this month and part of next month, and we will be ready to go with next year's mystery. Okay, so here is Quilt-Cam Yay and my new singer 185J named Peggy Sue. So happy for Quilt-Cam tonight. I've been wanting to share my latest acquisition with you. This was my mother's very first sewing machine as a young lady. I remember her making clothes, curtains, and other stuff. She's a singer 185J, made on October 29th, 1959, and she sews very fast and smooth, so I named her Peggy Sue. Peggy after my mother, and Sue after my aunt. And I love Buddy Holly. Well, I'm not sewing tonight as I have my 4-year-old granddaughter with me this week. Could you say hello to her? And you don't give me her name. So this is hello to the granddaughter. So happy to have you with us tonight. And let's see. Okay, picture of Abby's at the bottom here. So we have the 185J that's named after her mother and her aunt, and Abby, the granddaughter, who's visiting tonight. So glad that you could join in. Wonderful. That looks like so much fun. And she's adorable too. And you're making 4 patches. I love it. I love it. Great job. Okay. So here's Kathy with a subject line of paint chips. Funny thing happened when I was at my parents' house last week. I was telling my mother about the run that happens on paint chips when you issue the challenge. She has a bag of paint chips that someone in her miniature club gave her. She tried to give me some. I had to tell her thank you, but I would only use them to match colors. That's too funny. Okay, so we are at 10 o'clock. We've been at this an hour. I've got 2 sets that need to be taken apart. And you know what? I think, even though I'm cutting this about 15 minutes short, I think that I am tired enough and there's been enough going on here today that I'm going to call this a good night for the night. I have to pick these out before I can go any further. And when I pick out, there's like lots of not nice words. So I don't want to put those on camera. So be watching on the blog for a special giveaway. If you are tuned in on YouTube tonight, you're definitely going to want to click to my blog at quiltville.blogspot.com. Look for the post entitled Quilt-Cam September 7th, 2016. There's a giveaway, and it's a good one. This one is for a bundle. It's an EQ7 beginning webinar with Nancy Mahoney, and it's over $100 value. Her course on designing quilts in EQ7. You're not going to want to miss this. I'm going to be giving this bundle away on Tuesday. You need to click to the blog, read the blog, scroll down to the post where it says about the giveaway. There's a blue button that says add your link. Click that blue button and leave your name and your email address only. I will be drawing for this on Tuesday. EQ7 is a fabulous tool. I've heard from so many people who say, oh, I have it, but I've never really figured out how to use it. I'd like to know how to use it better. Well, this is how you can use it better. So give that a check out, and we will see. That'll happen on Tuesday. As for me, bright and early tomorrow, I'm filling book orders. I'll be filling them all weekend. I leave for Rhode Island on Tuesday, and when I come back, we'll talk about when we can do our next Quilt-Cam, okay? If it's still early where you are, have a lovely evening. Enjoy working on your project. Make some progress. Let it be the first thing that you see when you wake up in the morning so that you can smile and feel good about what you accomplished tonight. If you are new to Quilt-Cam and you haven't watched before, all of the previous Quilt-Cams are archived under the Quilt-Cam tab at the top of my blog. If you watch from the blog, you'll also be able to read the background info that I have written where this feed is embedded, and that'll give you the whole picture and all of the links and hints and helps and things like that. Until I see you next time, everybody, stay scrappy. We'll see you next time from the basement. I'm Bonnie Hunter. Good night, everybody.